What's up, guys? Your boy Burn here along with Pete.
Yo.
And we got to talk about some breaking news. Of course, we talked about Kawhi Leonard. Brian Windhorst on Outside the Lines talked about that several general managers have been inquiring or trying to inquire about the Kawhi Leonard thing, the telenovela that continues on day in, day out. Episode number 5, I believe this is, and this is titled, Will He Be Traded or Won't He Be Traded? So, for this one, what we and Peter are going to be discussing is more what teams he could potentially go to and what does this mean for Kawhi's brand and what does this mean for the Spurs. So I think let's start off with the first thing, what teams could trade for him. I know we made a video earlier talking about it, but what team do you think he would be like a good fit to be traded to?
There's a few, right? And it has to be a team that's willing to give up the farm for him. I will say this, right? I do think he's going to get traded. My gut says it's like 70-30 he's going to get traded. Just because the Spurs it's still in their prime era of Popovich coaching. They're not going to waste his last 5 to 7 years, if that's how much longer he has. So Popovich especially doesn't want to waste that time. So I think you trade Kawhi and you get as much value.
The break. Kawhi Leonard gobbles it up. Oh, the claw going to work. Did he ever? Nobly gets it back.
I mentioned Charlotte in the video, Bernie.
Leonard with the floater.
I think Charlotte still is probably the best option to get him. In the trade that I talked about in the video was this. Kemba Walker, first and foremost, you get a star in return. You get Malik Monk in return, who could easily develop into a really good player in the league, especially with the great shooting coaches that San Antonio has. And you get the 11th to 10th pick in the draft, somewhere in there. So you get 2 developmental players, a lottery pick, one of them who could be really good, and Malik Monk, who just was a lottery pick. And then you get an established NBA star who fits really well into the San Antonio Spurs offense in Kemba Walker. I think that's easily the most fair trade that I could come up with. There's a couple others we'll get into, but I think that one's very fair from the get-go. And I think both sides of that trade would be really, really happy. Kemba Walker just wants to play basketball.
Right.
And that, at the end of the day, is all the San Antonio Spurs want. They just want a player who's going to fit into their system and wants to play their hardest game night in and night out. Charlotte just wants a superstar. Michael Jordan wants a mega star to come back in return for Kemba Walker. This is his best shot. I think this is his best shot.
Yeah, I think Charlotte would be an interesting thing. It just determines on what the Spurs want to do. Obviously, you get great players in Kawhi Leonard and a potential, developed all-star player in Malik Monk. But they already have Murray, who's developing into a nice point guard. Parker's still there. I'm not sure how longer he has. But do I trust Michael Jordan to put the pieces around him to get that team to where I believe a Kawhi Leonard's caliber type of player should be? That I'm not so sure about. And that's like the one worrying thing. Like, obviously, Kawhi doesn't have a no trade clause because otherwise he would pick where he goes. Yeah. But if I'm Kawhi Leonard, I haven't signed my deal yet. Do I re-sign with the Charlotte Hornets if this trade's made? It's tricky. I think one team that I could see, maybe the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think you do is you trade your first round pick. You get rid of a guy that you have a couple of them. So you can get rid of Jabari Parker, even though that'd be a really tough one.
I think they would.
You would get rid of Jabari Parker,
easily do it.
Chris Middleton, a first round pick, maybe 2 of them. You'd probably have to give them 2 first round picks, which would be a lot. But for all those guys, I think you could get a guy in Kawhi Leonard who will be one of your better two-way players. You move Giannis to the 4, a stretch 4, because there's no longer this power forward that we're used to seeing anymore. So I think him being the stretch 4, I think will be a very good team. You still have Brogdon there. You still have Bledsoe there. And I think that could be a good team, depending on what happens with the bench, because bench is becoming a really big, important thing in the NBA now.
I think one big thing, too, we haven't mentioned yet, in general, I actually like that trade, too. I think a big thing, I don't think San Antonio would want to trade him anywhere in the West. I think they would really try and make a trade with the Eastern Conference so they didn't have to play him. And they don't want to make another team strong, like add a Kawhi-level player to another team.
Yeah.
So give him to someone in the East. I think Milwaukee's actually a good shout. And I think if a Kawhi trade came up for Milwaukee, Jabari Parker is an afterthought. Send him. Like, he's good, but send him. The question I have with that trade is, would Coach Pop want a guy like Jabari Parker, who is kind of a liability defensively sometimes? I would be a little bit more questioning on that, but I think the addition of Chris Middleton would balance it out quite a bit.
Yeah, because I think he's an upgrade to Danny Green, who's getting a lot older.
Yeah.
And I think Jabari Parker, whether or not LaMarcus Aldridge stays, because he's been, fed up with the organization at one point, but now they're even-headed. Does he re-sign with the Spurs? I mean, who knows? I mean, this is the crazy thing about this Kawhi thing, is that I feel like the Spurs don't want to lose a lot of value on him, but the teams don't want to give up that much, because they don't, and I hate to bring this up, they don't want to pull another Carmelo Anthony type of deal where it kind of, you gave up the farm for Carmelo.
Kind of, yeah. Another option, right? And this one is kind of more a long shot than the other two. Like, I think if Charlotte or Milwaukee had an actual opportunity to get Kawhi Leonard, they're taking it as quickly as there's no chance they say no, right? Those are two teams that are just jumping on it.
Yeah.
A long shot team who, whether they want to trade one of these guys is a real question, is Washington Wizards.
The Wizards. That could actually be pretty good.
If they wanted to trade a John Wall or Bradley Beal, that is the type of trade that makes a lot of sense for all parties involved. First of all, both of those guys are incredible players, right? If I'm San Antonio, I want Bradley Beal, first of all. Yeah. He's just more, seems more apt.
He's the better shooter.
Better shooter, better defender too, in my opinion. Yeah. And, I mean, both of them are kind of, both of them are a little questionable, right? But I think Bradley Beal's a little bit better, just like wingspan and just his lateral quickness.
Okay.
But the big thing for Bradley Beal is I think he would be more willing to work with Coach Pop and be in a system than John Wall would be. And he just fits, his play style fits what San Antonio does a little bit more than John Wall, being like an ISO player.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to, would San Antonio or would Washington want to trade one of those guys? And I would say I would lean on the side of no, but if a guy like Kawhi would be available for them for one of those guys, they would definitely have to give something else of good value with one of those guys for Kawhi. What do you think about this? They're not going to give their first round pick. They don't have to. Bradley Beal, and it's got to be somebody good. What about Kelly Oubre? Still developing, but he's solid. You put Bradley Beal and Kelly Oubre together for Kawhi. You might have to get San Antonio. That might be a little too much.
Too much for San Antonio or too much for the Wizards?
Too much for the Wizards to give up.
I think it's not enough.
I don't think Kelly Oubre and Bradley Beal are enough for Kawhi.
No, because I think with Kelly Oubre, I think he's a developing player, and I think he will be a decent role player, six man as the highest potential. But I think you need at least a pick or two from that team, and I think that could be like the sweetener on the deal, because it's almost like that's like the main course. You get those two guys because those two guys can play. Bradley Beal and Kelly Oubre, but you want that dessert. You want that little sprinkles on the top of the whipped cream. So I think the picks.
Yeah, it's not bad. Like maybe the 19th. I guess that pick doesn't have a ton of value, so you do give that in there too. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Maybe you give San Antonio's later first round pick in there too, and then it's like swapping picks kind of.
Yeah.
I actually really like that trade for both teams. Because I think like not the Kelly Oubre, but the John Wall, Bradley Beal thing is obviously running its course in a lot of ways. So one of those guys is going to have to go. But I do think John Wall is more of an established star than Bradley Beal is. So they would lean towards keeping him.
Yeah, I agree. I think another team that they could potentially trade for, and I think this one could be a little crazy, and I really haven't worked it out.
Okay.
Obviously, there's been rumors that Kawhi Leonard is from Compton.
Okay.
Could he potentially go to the Lakers in a trade?
The Lakers. Who would the Lakers give up? First of all, is my question. They're not going to give up Lonzo.
No Lonzo. The problem is, I don't know. They probably would, but you give up Kyle Kuzma. You give up Kyle Kuzma. You give up this pick that's coming up in this draft.
Yeah.
And then I believe you have to give up someone that has a lot of roster space, because you could do like a sign and trade, sign the max, trade him, You probably take Luol Deng's contract, which that helps the Lakers clear that out.
Yeah. The one major thing for the Lakers, right, is the only way, unlike the other teams, I think the only way they make this trade is if it is a sign-and trade, right? Or they have some sort of guarantee that they're going to sign him, because there's already rumors that they might get Kawhi anyway. So why wouldn't they just wait until his contract expired elsewhere rather than giving up the farm for him? But I do like the idea of this trade at its core because they have more than enough pieces to get him.
And they also wanted to trade Julius Randle, so you could also probably add him to the deal.
Yeah. All right, real question, right? This is the major question for this because you have to include one of these guys. Lonzo, Kuzma, or Ingram. Like, one of them has to be in the trade. And if you had one of them that's untouchable out of the three, who is it?
I probably would say... that's tough. I think Ingram's untradeable.
I think it's Ingram, too. I think out of the three, he's absolutely untouchable.
Lonzo is not... He's untouchable as of now, but I think in a year or two, if he doesn't develop, which I think he will, and so if he doesn't do what he does,
okay,
he could potentially be traded. But I don't know how Popovich would feel having LeVar Ball.
He would shut that shit.
Team.
He would shut that down so quick.
For the game. When they came out the womb for me picking my wife. This stuff was planned, man. This wasn't no accident. Man, when I was growing up, I had a lot of little short cuties.
Because it's kind of funny to me, like I talked about in my video with the Kawhi Leonard thing and the telenovela that it is. You know, it's funny to me that we think of like the Spurs and the Patriots as this, tight, well-oiled machine, and then all of a sudden this year, both these teams they're just old. They're losing off their hinges, off the train.
They're just old, and I talked about it in the video that I just made, the future co-stars video, and I talked about it while I was talking about DeJounte Murray. It's all about buying into their system, and if you don't necessarily agree with it completely, it's just a recipe for disaster, and Kawhi Leonard was there for a long time, and it seems like he's just like it's run its course, right? They need a guy who's going to sit well in that franchise. Right. So, if out of those three guys, I think Lonzo's third on my list of. I think he's the least untouchable out of. I would honestly put Kuzma as more valuable than him.
That's tough.
It's a tough question, right? But I do think Kuzma's.
But I think the Spurs would value Kuzma more because you basically you're swapping small forwards.
I agree.
At this point,
I think they would want Kuzma more. But I would, if I'm the Lakers, I'd be less willing to give him up than Lonzo.
Yeah.
But if they could get Lonzo, I honestly don't think they would be mad at that trade. But it would have to be Lonzo, the pick, but they don't really have any good picks in this draft. It would be Lonzo, Julius Randle, and a pick. I don't think that's enough.
No, I think
you'd have to give Kuzma up.
Kuzma, Randle, probably Luol Deng just for contract reasons.
What if they finessed him out of Brandon Ingram? They might, honestly.
That's tough. I mean, the thing is, they drafted him a while ago, and maybe not a while ago.
It was only 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but like he's been a development project.
Last year, it was last year, right? I can't remember.
No. It was 2 years.
He's this second half of the season, he's been really, really good.
Yeah. And he's been a development project ever since he got drafted. They understood that he needed to gain weight. He needed to do all this stuff. And I think he's getting there for them. So this is the reason why I don't think that Ingram is probably going to be touchable to any team.